So again, we'll be doing the design tools for beginners. That is not a picture of me. That is the developer we had at Restream. He is well on his way. My name is Lyles Armour. I've been with Restream for about 5 years now, and I'm thrilled to speak with you guys about some tools that you can use to evaluate where your website stands, to make sure that you're caught up to what is going on based off of the changes in the industry and the different needs that your business will have. So again, hopefully you'll get some value here. I also encourage you guys to get a copy of this webinar and run the various tests that we'll be running today on your website. If you have questions, if you need help on how to address those things or correct them, don't hesitate to reach out. Otherwise, pass this presentation on to your current webmaster and allow them to work through the various components to get your website up to date. So let's go ahead and get started here. First thing I want to do is just let you guys know we have some upcoming webinars, low season strategies, revenue management, and yield management in September. And then we also have 10 ways your website is driving customers away in October. So I hope you guys are able to sign up and attend those. Again, if you can't, sign up anyways, and you'll get a recording sent to you directly. And then just to recap, we had a couple webinars recently, maximizing your direct bookings with Trip Connect. That was a big presentation there, so if you're not taking advantage of those Trip Connect feature, I definitely recommend you do that. Also encourage you guys to look at the webinar about direct bookings. It's a better way to obviously get some higher value, higher return, not paying those third-party commission fees for every booking. And obviously, what's stopping your guests from booking? Making sure that you're doing everything you can to ensure that they're completing that reservation with you. A couple things that we'll be going over today is a search engine optimization tool, mobile friendliness, looking at website speed, social media optimizer, some user behavior heat maps, and some image editing and optimization tools. I do ask that if you guys have any questions, don't hesitate to put those in the chat box. We'll have a moment at the end where we'll be able to go over those various questions. I'll do my best to answer those for you, and then if there's ever a case where we need to take this offline, we're more than welcome to do so as well. Real quick here, Tony, as it relates to the slides not fitting the full window, that's a setting directly inside of your application. So I do apologize. You'll just have to enlarge that screen where the presentation is being shown. All right, so again, let's go ahead and officially get started. The first thing that I want to look at with you guys is the search engine optimization testing tool. This testing tool is a great way to see what metadata you have on your website, take a real quick glance at the speed optimization tools, security and server settings, mobile usability. So this particular tool by SEO Site Check allows you to get a real high-level overview on what's going on with your website. So I'll drag this screen over here and we'll scroll through right now. So this particular website is an attendee of the presentation here. As you can see, they have an overall score of 72. And what this particular report is looking at is 47 different items and elements that it's going to figure into how it grades you for the scores. So the nice thing is it lets you know exactly what you're doing. Now I will say in here, it doesn't tell you if you're doing it correctly. So it's checking to see if you have a title tag. It's checking to see if you have a description. It's letting you know what keywords it sees or it's able to scan on the website. However, it is not telling you these are the keywords you need to be using or you should be using. This just gives you some insight as to what it identifies on your website. So if you really want to know if you're targeting or going after the correct terms, and that's really where you're going to need to get a marketing agency involved or do a little bit more homework and seeing what keywords people are searching for, what the volume is, and whether or not that's something that you want to add to your program. A couple other nice things here, let you know if you have the appropriate headings, H1s, H2s. Believe it or not, these little things like that will negatively impact your rankings if you don't have them in place correctly. So while it may not be a big deal when you go to the website and you look at it, from the standpoint of what Google is scanning from the back side of the website, it's important that you have these various elements in place. It's going to look for SEO-friendly URLs, so how clean is the URL? How well is Google able to view that URL and making sure that it can help you come up in search engines? It's going to scan your images. It's going to look for alt tags and make sure that you're giving a description for your images for those people who are visually impaired, extremely important. So again, this just goes through a handful of things to just kind of see where you are with your website, the performance. Some of these things, depending on the type of website you have, you'll be able to address and fix. Other things you might want to hand off to your webmaster. So again, a great tool to see kind of where you are from an SEO standpoint. Do you have the appropriate tags, the appropriate elements in place to give you the best ranking possible? The next tool that we'll look at here is the Google's mobile-friendly testing tool. If you guys aren't aware, Google is taking over. More searches are happening on mobile devices than on desktops. And it's important that you're presenting your website in a fashion that everyone is able to get what they need from it. Whether they're on a desktop computer, a tablet, or a mobile device, them being able to access your website with ease is ultimately what you want them to be able to do. So this testing tool, basically, you plug in your website address and it will let you know if you're friendly or if you're not and you need to make some adjustments over here off to the right. You'll also notice in this image down here towards the middle with the red squares around it is inside of the individual search listings, and you guys probably have seen this, it's going to let you know if this website is mobile friendly or not. So before people even click on your website, Google and the search engine is saying, hey, this website's going to have a good experience, go ahead and move forward, or maybe not, be considerate that you might have to do some pushing, some pinching, just to be able to see the various components on the website. Another thing about this is usually when you're going for a mobile-friendly website, the biggest trend right now is going responsive, which basically means it's one website, one code base that works for all devices. Now, if you don't have a mobile website, that is something that you can easily get. You can have your current website converted into a responsive design. You can get a separate mobile website. If you do that, you have to be very mindful of the usability standpoint, as users may or may not always have pages on a separate mobile website. Or ultimately, it could just come down to the point where it's time to get a new website. Yours has run its course for as long as it can. Pat it on the back, and let's get yourself into a new one. Another layer here to look at is your booking engine. It's one thing to have a mobile website, but when these people are ready to book with you, what is that experience going to be like? Are you going to deter them? Are you going to make it more difficult for them to book? Having a mobile-friendly booking engine just makes it that much easier for them to not only find you, but then go through the booking process and give you the money that you guys all are fighting for there. So a couple fun facts here. 18% of one-night stays happen on mobile. So again, if you guys are having issues filling those, Wednesday bookings or those single-day bookings, mobile is a good way to kind of maybe set up some mobile strategies to get those people to book for those one-night stays. So again, just encourage you guys to evaluate not only your website, but your booking engine provider, making sure it's responsive and meets the needs of your visitors. The next test that we'll look at is the Google speed test. This speed test is I wouldn't say it's new, but it's having more of a weight as to how Google factors in the ranking of your website. So it's important that you do the best that you can to address the various items that these reports will show you. It's also important to note that depending on your website and your individual property's goals, you may have to do without making some of the adjustments that Google outlines. So a couple quick points here. It's on a scale of 0 to 100. 100 obviously meaning you're at the best that you could be. Ultimately, you want to try and get a score of 85 and above in the two different testing tools that it looks at. And we're going to go ahead and review a couple websites that I kind of looked at in advance. If you guys are a part of the presentation here for the properties I'm looking at, again, thank you for signing up. I don't mean to put you on blast here, but I just want to show how these tools can be used and the value of them. So the first one we'll look at here is White House Inn. This particular website did not pass the Google speed test. For desktop, it's at 26 out of 100. For mobile, it is at 25 out of 100. What's nice about Google is it will let you know exactly what you need to fix and how you need to go about it. The majority of these things, I'll be open for you, aren't going to be things that you'll be able to yourself fix unless you're familiar with, HTML, CSS, compressing files and whatnot. So you're definitely going to want to get your webmaster involved. The nice thing here is, again, Google tells you exactly what the issue is and provides you with resources to help you understand what it is more in detail and then how to go about addressing and fixing those various things. So again here, this website just needs to do some compressing of files, making these files a little bit smaller so there's not as much load time. Another thing that you can also do is combine all of these. These look like JavaScript files, so rather than having 15 or 20 of these individually, you can have one file, so it's one call to the server to speed some things up. Another thing that they need to do here is optimize some images. I'll be showing you guys an image optimization tool later that you can use to take care and address this. And then again, there's just a variety of different components and different things that it's looking at. So again, this is definitely something that you guys want to take a peek at and review. The other thing that I will mention out there is the site speed test is doing a measure of, are you doing the appropriate things to get your website to perform the best? That doesn't necessarily mean that your website is slow. Sometimes you might want to do the eyeball test and see how long it takes for this website to come up. As you can see, me clicking around, if I'm a user, I'm not sitting, I'm not waiting all day. So from the user standpoint, the website is performing as fast as it could be, if not faster. From a back-end standpoint, from a technical standpoint, there's some work that needs to be done here. So definitely want to jump on that. Another one that we'll look at here is from the Pinterest B&B. As you can see here, they're passing on the desktop at 85, and they're slightly off on mobile. From the standpoint of mobile, and sometimes it's a little bit tricky because it's a smaller device. If it's a responsive website, you're loading all of the resources onto one smaller device, and then your cell phone's coverage and those various things can also come into play. Ultimately, again, you want to do your best to get to that 85 mark in the green. Being in the yellow is satisfactory, but I encourage you to do some more work there. Obviously, the biggest thing here is JavaScript and CSS things above the fold. Above the fold basically means what you're able to see inside of that phone before you scroll down the page. So it's basically saying, hey, these things are potentially delaying how quick it is for me to load the rest of the page, do something about it. So again, like I said, the majority of these things you're going to have to get your webmaster involved with, but the beauty is Google's going to tell you what the problem is and how you should go about fixing it. All right. Next, we're going to take a peek at the social media grader. This basically just does a quick scan to see what social media accounts you have out there. It's a good way for you guys to just double check, okay, am I presenting the social media accounts that I have with Google tied to my business so I can get a little bit more authority, a little bit more favorism in the rankings here. So this particular tool, it's really simple here, and we'll run through it real quick. Let me pull it up here, get a website to test. So basically, you just go to this website, Social Debug. You plug in your website address, and you get my URL grade. And give it a second, and it will let you know. So the first thing I want to point out here is a felon grade doesn't mean you're doing anything necessarily. It basically just means that you're not taking advantage of social media for Facebook or for Google+. Or for LinkedIn. So again, it doesn't mean you need to do it. It's just letting you know that, hey, when we ran this check, we have identified that you are not doing anything as it relates to social media from our testing standpoint. So again, just another way for you to see what's out there. If you've hired an agency, it's another way for you to confirm and verify that things are set up correctly, that they're showing up the way that they should be, so on and so forth. So it's a really simple grading scale. You're either passing or you're failing. There's some degree of percentages depending on, do you have a title in place, do you have a description, are you sending over an image or not. So those different things will vary depending on what you have, but ultimately this is a real quick glance, a real quick way to see the social accounts you have and whether or not they're in place appropriately. One thing I will note is Google Plus test isn't as important anymore since Google no longer relies on authorship. So when you're going through that test, if you see that you're getting the failing grade for Google, not that big of a deal, especially if you know you're taking advantage of it and you have a listing in place. All right here, guys, and the next one here is the Schema. It's a Google structured data. They have a testing tool which basically allows you to see what additional markup your website has as it relates to the information it shares with the search engines. So this is something that is, I wouldn't say it's new, but it's actually picking up some steam as it relates to those people who are using the tool, who are implementing the tool on their website. Basically what it will do is when people do various searches on your website, Google and the various search engines, Bing and Yahoo, will use this structured data that you're sending over to them to enhance the searches and listings. So in some cases they might add the ratings and reviews, so you can see how many people have reviewed this property, what's the star rating. Obviously, usually most people when they see a 5 out of 5 star property, they want to go there first. They want to look at the pictures. They want to look at the rooms. They want to give you their first opportunity to win their business. So being able to share that information with the search engines before they make it to your website is extremely important and valuable. You know, the other thing to point out here is, you know, when you implement this markup on your website, it gives you an opportunity to play with some of the big boys who have a little bit more marketing dollars to create these rich, appealing search engine listings. So Google, Airbnb, Marriott, TripAdvisor, and the list goes on and on. They're using some level of schema to help them, you know, display their search results for you. So this is something that I encourage you guys to definitely reach out to your developers on, see if this is something that they've done for you. Again, as we do a test here on this website, we'll be able to see what markup is in place for it, and then we'll be able to kind of determine what type of information we're sharing with Google. So quickly, you just enter in a URL. Looks like I didn't pull up that URL here. Let me go ahead and pull up a different one. Sometimes you actually have to do the page code, so it's just a variety of different ways on how sometimes they'll scan your websites. So they also give you the option for the code snippet for those developers out there who want to take that approach. So what you'll see after it reviews and scans the code, it will go ahead and let you know what it's detected. So right now it's identified that this particular business is a hotel, and we're telling Google, here's the important information you should know: the website address, the logo, the business name, the email address, and phone number, or excuse me, email address and the property address. What we're also doing is we're saying, hey, we've got products, quote unquote, rooms, because that's what we're selling. We've got 7 rooms on this page as well that I want you to know about. And individually, I'm going to tell you, this is the photo, this is the name of the room, here's the pricing, so on and so forth. So again, you're presenting and providing the search engines with a consistent format that all of them can use when they're displaying information on your behalf in the search engine. So it's additional code that goes on your website. If you've got a website built within the last year, my hope is that you have that in place. For those of you who don't, it's pretty straightforward and easy to implement, so reach out to us, reach out to your developers if that's something you're interested in adding to your program. The next tool that we're looking at here, and I'm hopefully trying to speed through this. I know I told you guys it's 30 minutes here, so I'll try and get through quickly, is the user behavior. This is a very fun tool. Allows you to see exactly what your visitors are seeing, how they're responding, how they're acting on the website. So you have a heat map over here, and then you also have a scroll map. So we'll take a look at the heat map first, just so you guys can kind of get an idea of what that represents and what that means. The heat map, again, just lets you know exactly what people are clicking on. So this is the home page of Edenville. As you can see right away, people are interested in rooms, specials, reservations, and this is, again, all above the fold. So it's important when you're looking at your website, what do people see before they scroll down? Are you giving them what they need to get into the appropriate areas to make the purchase decision? Are you funneling them where you want them to go? In this case here, I would say yes, we are. We're winning. We want you to book rooms with us. We want you to reserve a unit with us. We want you to check availability up here on the right. We have a calendar that floats at the bottom of the page, and you can see how active they are in using the calendar to check dates and check arrivals. What this heat map will also do is it will also let you know what's not working. An example here is gift certificates. It doesn't look like right now a lot of people are interested in gift certificates. So could we be better using this tab to funnel them into the sections they are interested in? That's a very good way to evaluate what people are doing. Again, as they scroll down the page, are they clicking on my links? The interlinking strategies that you have in place to lower your bounce rates and to continue them into that purchasing cycle there, do you have those links? Are they interacting with those links? So that's another good thing here. So again, it gives you a real quick glance as to what they're doing, what they're clicking on. So a good time to use this is, hey, are you currently struggling with people bouncing off of your website? Are people calling you saying they can't find what they're looking for? They're constantly clicking multiple pages, so on and so forth. Go ahead and set yourself up with the Crazy Egg account. I believe for 14 days it's free, and then from there you can pay for a subscription. But it's a great way to just see how people are using the website. If you're working on a new website design, it might make sense to add Crazy Egg on your current website so you can see how it's performing, what people are doing, so you know what to design for your next website and you know how to build it for the next website. The other one here is the scroll map. So scroll maps are very big, obviously, because that's the whole thing with the website. You start at the top and you start to scroll your way to the bottom. The first thing I want to point out here is the color that's most important is the white. That is the hot area. That lets you know this is where those people are more often than not focusing their eyes. And you can see that over here on the grading scale. Obviously at the top of the page, especially as they grow through your website, they're accustomed to what's up there, so they're going to quickly start to scroll down. When they get to the images, you'll notice they may be stopped. They might scroll through a little bit, and then they start to get in the text. You'll notice the text area is lighter in color, which means they're spending some time reading through your text. So if you have a page with a lot of text on there, or you're trying to understand, are they reading my text? Are they stopping to actually buy into what it is we're selling? This is another great way to do that. So, you know, it's another, again, quick way to see how people are scanning your website. As you can see here, blue is very cold. Most people don't get to the bottom, which, again, will give you some insight. Are they bouncing? Are they leaving once they get here? Do I need to put some calls to actions right here in the middle? If they're sitting and reading their content, wouldn't it be nice? Do I have a RFP form that says request your breakfast or request your dining, something along those lines, if I know they're sitting here? So again, it gives you a great way to just identify what your guests are looking at when they're on your website. A couple more things here. The image editing tool. This allows you basically to kind of have a Photoshop. A lot of properties here, you know, they often have to rely on a designer or another company to edit photos, to manage them for you. This is a nice free tool that lets you kind of do it yourself. It's pretty straightforward. You're going to get a lot of the basics out of it, so you can't necessarily do everything you want, but it's a very light version of Photoshop. Allows you to bring in an image, and then from there you can make various adjustments to the size. You can crop the photo if you need to. Again, it just allows you to kind of be the designer, if you will, and take advantage of the free tool. You can add a text overlay. So if you have a content management system to where you actually get to log in and make changes to yourselves, if you have those header images and you want to put a nice call to action on a header image to continue them into that buying cycle, again, here's a free image editing tool that you can use to quickly, you know, make the changes to an image that you're looking for. This is powered by Adobe. Adobe does Photoshop, Dreamweaver. They're the big player in the industry for the most part as it relates to web design, media-related editing tools. So again, this one's free for you guys. Another tool, and we briefly spoke about this, was the image optimization. This is going to be one of the biggest things that you can do and that you can control as it relates to your website's performance, your website speed. Optimizing your images is extremely important. This particular tool is able to decrease the number of colors while still keeping the integrity and the quality of the photos that you're optimizing. It allows it to use less bandwidth, so it loads quicker on the website. And some of the nice advantages here is it integrates with WordPress. So for those of you who have WordPress websites, this is a plugin that you can integrate with to make sure as you're adding images to your website, it optimizes them. And then also it works with Photoshop as well. So for the agencies like ourselves, or for some of you properties who have representatives who manage the media in-house for you, that's a tool that they can use to make sure it ties into Photoshop as they optimize their images. So we'll take a quick look at this. I want to show you guys how powerful this optimization tool is. We'll drag over a couple of images. So I'll drag over these 3 images. You can do 20 at a time. This one's starting off at 4 megs, and it's getting compressed down. Let's see what that percentage is here. We'll give it some time to render. But again, this is a nice way to make sure that your images aren't too big, they're not taking too much time for them to load, and making sure that they're as small as humanly possible to increase the efficiency on your website. So this particular file went from 4 megabytes all the way down to less than 1 megabyte, a reduction of 79%. So again, you can see just that quick how small that file is. Then we can go ahead and download this image, and we'll open it up here, and then you'll be able to see the quality hasn't dropped as well. So again, a lot of people have been asking, what can I do when my website performing? I do a lot of high-end, high photography videos and photos, and I want to make sure they're optimized for the website. This is a real easy tool that you can use to ensure that that is the case. So my image is loading right now here. It opened up Photoshop, so it's taking a little bit longer than I would have hoped, but nonetheless, I'll be able to show you here if it opens. Here it's loading. One of those things there, when you're in the middle of a presentation, things move the slowest. I'm sure you guys know how it is. You're checking in a guest, and then the internet freezes. So I feel your pain. So this is the image that was recreated for us through the optimization tool. A nice couple taking a walk there next to a creek. And then I want to show you guys here the image before we ran it through the optimization tool here. My tools are running a little slow on me. So this is the image before. So before, after, before, after. So again, the quality itself and the integrity there was was able to remain where it was at. The file size itself is what's changed. So and then you can see here it says this file is too large to begin with, so you have to optimize it to start off with, which sometimes is the case. You can use the previous editing tool that we just went over through Adobe to resave that file. In doing that, you're also able to adjust and reduce the file size there upon save. So we're getting close to the tail end here. Just want to show you guys a couple additional tools that I didn't have time to cover here. I wanted to make sure I was mindful of your time and everything you have to do. One of the best tools that I recommend everyone should get is Google Webmaster Tools. This basically does a health check on your website every day, all the time, and lets you know what errors it's finding, what usability issues you have, or certain things verified on your site so that they're working and showing up in Google correctly. The other tool here we have is the SEO review tools. This particular website has a variety of different tools that allows you to check for duplicate content, which can hurt you in your search engine results and your rankings. Look at your website authority to see if you got the right authority to really move the program in the direction that you want. Take a look at your redirects to make sure that your pages are coming through with the valid response code that is needed for Google to be able to validate those pages. And then we also have another website here that allows you to, again, a handful of various testing tools to see if Google is able to access your website with their Google bot. verifying the website security. Are you using SSL, HTTPS or not? And then just some general accessibility things as well. And then finally, for some of you other folks out there, if you're looking for ways to create colors or trying to figure out what the color of something is, or you know, working on a design, this is a nice color picking tool. If you have a website that allows you to manage the design, being able to create background patterns is also useful. Icon Finder is a great website if you're looking for icons, Facebook, Twitter, so on and so forth. Just a great resource for free icons. And then meta tags, if you're looking for, you know, just some awareness as to what those meta tags mean. When we reviewed it on that first SEO testing tool, get a little bit more insight there. So, you know, some free tools for you guys to check out. I encourage you to do that in your free time. So that concludes the webinar here. I apologize, I went about 11 minutes over the 30 minutes I mentioned to you guys, but I hope you found some value there. I'll let this sit for a little bit to see if there's any questions that I can answer for anyone. Otherwise, we will conclude the webinar today. All right, well, it doesn't look like there's any questions, which hopefully means you were able to grasp what we went over today. Maybe these are some things that you have seen. It also probably means you just want to get a copy of the webinar so you can do the testing on your end yourself, which is more than okay. I just want to remind you guys, if you want to take this discussion offline, if you would like for us to help you evaluate your website's performance, please reach out to the email address there at sales@reststream.com. If you want to have a conversation, you want to go away from the email, pick up the phone and give us a call. We'd love to hear your voice, love to chat with you. Finally, we send out a monthly newsletter. We'll make sure to remind you of any upcoming webinars and what's changing in the industry. I encourage you guys to reach out, follow us on our blog, free webinars, and again, if you have some consulting needs, don't hesitate to reach out. Again, I appreciate your guys' attention today. Thank you for attending the webinar. We'll be in touch with you soon. Bye-bye.